Don't you hate pants?
Hey, have a seat for a second. Look, I have never seen a bunch of guys look so down when something bad happens. What are you guys, like prima donna perfect that if you can't handle adversity, so shit's not going right. It's not working the last 10 days. Get your heads out of your ass and make it work by outworking the opposition. You kill two men, and then we stand around and watch it, and while they come to the bench like this, and when the power play is not working, so you're trying to stick handle, you're looking like this and not standing, outwork the guys. If you want it, don't just think you want it, go out and want it. But you're not looking like you want it, you look like you're feeling sorry for yourself, and nobody wants anybody that's feeling sorry for themselves. You got 20 minutes, you're down by one. Surely the we can deal with this.
Welcome to Giles and the Goalies podcast. We're recording here at unnamed Roseville Bar and Grill on Sunday afternoon.
With ginormous potholes.
Some of us more in pain than others.
You one guess.
I'm Giles, the one who's always either in good spirits or well in pain on this show.
For the same reason.
Across from me is Ben, as always.
Hello.
Or except that one time he podcasted by himself.
Yes.
I don't know how you did that, but
it was bad.
You did. You managed to.
It was bad.
Kind of a big weekend.
A little bit.
In which I kind of had to sit all of it out for.
Yeah. How was the wedding, by the way? Sounds like it was a lot of fun.
I was.
Looks like it was a lot of fun.
It was a good time. Yeah, I thought I was going to be really, really tired by like midnight, but not at all.
Just kept hitting your second wind.
Going. We hit a local watering hole in Northeast after the reception ended, and I was proud. We just kept going through till bar closed.
Nice.
It was a good time. It was interesting being in the wedding party.
Yeah.
I only did that once before, and I was 3 years old.
Oh.
I was a ring bearer.
Yeah, I've done it twice now, and it's kind of a whole different ball game. Yeah. Aside from the fact that it kind of wipes out like 3 or 4 days of your life, in a good way. Each time I did it, it's obviously been very close friends of mine. It's been a blast. So, totally different animal from just showing up to a wedding one afternoon, getting hammered, and going home. It becomes almost a week of not work, but appointmented things to do. So, a lot of fun though.
Well, I didn't have
a lot of drinking.
Yes.
It basically takes it from like one half day of drinking, going to a wedding, and turns it into like 3 consecutive days of getting absolutely hammered. When you've got rehearsals and tux fittings and the actual wedding itself and the wedding morning and all the pictures, and good lord.
The pictures were the worst part of this.
Yeah, that tends to be the...
We were doing this outside, kind of in somebody's backyard,
sure,
essentially, and it was 90 degrees out.
Oh, that's brutal.
And we have, we didn't have. Fortunately, our tuxes didn't have jackets.
Oh,
but it was still just hot.
Oh yeah, that's
and. It just felt like the pictures wouldn't end.
Yeah,
but
I got lucky in that the 2 weddings that I've been in have been in November and December. And the November one, it was beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful November weekends I can ever recall. And we didn't even do a whole lot of pictures outside. They were mostly inside at the venue. And then the December one, we actually did do some pictures outside, and it was cold and snowy, but It wasn't too bad. We survived through it by drinking heavily. So
Yeah, we were smart, and we didn't change into our tuxes until like 10 minutes before we had to leave.
oh yeah, good call.
We're sitting in like, we had the AC cranked at the place we're at, and we're just like, yeah, we're not changing till we absolutely have to.
No, yeah, it's
And
good. Yeah.
And then another fun story I'll share is the groom. He has been like putting back together this 1973 Winnebago. And it was his goal to get that fixed up and ready to go for this.
When
And
you
he
started
did.
off with
He
putting
did.
together 1973, I'm like, oh, cool, a classic car.
Yep,
Winnebago. Okay, that took a turn.
Yep.
That took quite the turn.
And like we literally all morning were going, of all the things to put back together, why? Like some guy just kept saying,
Did it
Rick,
have,
this
like-
was the stupidest idea you've ever had.
Did it have like orange shag carpeting inside, like a floral print couch? My dad had
No.
one like that. My dad actually had a motorhome. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was from the mid 70s.
I don't
And
know.
it was very much orange shag carpeting and floral print couches.
There was no carpeting or like couch. Like I don't know if everything just got taken out or what, but
Yeah.
it was just all like wood essentially.
No, that sounds comfortable.
But no, so you know the groomsmen drove to the wedding in this thing
Why?
because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted
okay.
to. So it's like
I mean,
okay.
it'd be kind of a cool, low-key place for a bachelor party, but like an actual commuter, I don't know.
And so as we're driving the 5 blocks from where we were going, we noticed there was just an extension cord hanging out the back.
Oh, super.
That was, it just was like,
That's safe.
and then there was like a TV mount, kind of right next to the stove.
Sure.
And once we took a turn, it just swung around, and it just stops like right here. One of the other grooms, like almost just like we had a good laugh because he was like, "Yeah, I almost died in the back."
Was there a
It was
TV
got
on it or just the mount?
No, it was just the mount.
Oh, well, thank God.
and it was just.
Just imagining a TV flying
Yeah,
across a
it just-
Winnebago as you take a hard right turn.
But anyway, so after like we get through the wedding, so basically like, hey, let's get the wedding party, and the photographer wanted to go get some photos in Boom Island. Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay.
I thought you were going to say in the Winnebago.
Everybody get. Oh, there was some pictures
There was. That's awesome.
out front of the Winnebago,
Oh, super.
and so we stopped at. We stopped somewhere to have a drink first, of which weirdly we all sat there and we were taking selfies because somebody literally said, I don't know how to take a selfie. I can't do it right. So then everybody literally took out their phones and started taking. It was one of the weirdest things.
Okay. How hammered were you guys at this point?
Oh man, it was lit.
Okay. Fair enough.
So we get out of there. We're on our way to Boom Island. We missed a turn to get to Boom Island, and so as we try to turn around, the Winnebago stalled in the parking lot of another park. So fortunately, we had the video guy and the photo guy with us. So there's a video of the entire wedding party pushing the Winnebago into a parking spot.
Oh, that's terrific. That is just tremendous.
Fortunately, a couple of people were behind us in their cars because they didn't really trust the Winnebago. So,
You know, the more you talk about it, the more I'm liking this wedding Winnebago idea. This kind of sounds like a sweet deal. If you have one that's like operational, that is.
You know, the worst part was like 5 minutes before we stalled, I was like, man, we are playing with fire by driving around in this all day. Yeah, that's the one wedding story I'm going to share on the air.
You're right. That's pretty PG. So that's pretty good.
The rest is not PG.
No. Okay. Fair enough. Well, I mean, other happenings this weekend. I was at the Hockey Wilderness draft party on Friday night, watching the first round of the NHL draft, and they did a live podcast, which was a lot of fun. It was nice to meet some people. I apologized on Twitter later that night, and I'll apologize again. If you met me, I am very awkward, and I am rather quiet to strangers.
Hey,
so
I'm the one who has the
don't.
I have dibs on being socially awkward. That's my.
You don't own that exclusively. I take a fair amount of that as well. So I'm sorry if we met and I was kind of aloof and standoffish, because that's just kind of who I am to people when I first meet them. Everyone who knows me can verify that. It wasn't just you. It was
who
me.
am I kidding?
So.
You give me a couple of beers and I'm no longer
Well, that's just
socially
it, too.
awkward.
I had one beer. So, I mean, if I had, 4 or 5 beers and a ride home and et cetera, I would have been the life of the party. But one beer obviously does not a party Ben make. So, it was a good time, though. Met a lot of the wild Twitter folk and whatnot. Met some listeners, which was awesome. Met Josh and his girlfriend and their Winnipeg Jets fan friend, along with, a bunch of the Hockey Wilderness guys for the first time, and some other folks. So it was a good time, and glad. Thanks for having me, and I was on their 3-hour podcast numerous times, so thanks for allowing me to do that. We even got a soup is not a meal shout out on the podcast, so that was good fun.
They had it at Wild Times?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good
I
venue
don't know
for
what it is. That the spelling of times just bothers me.
With the Y?
Yeah. There shouldn't be a Y.
Yeah. I think if you do that, you got to double down, and you got to spell wild with a Y, too. You just go for it.
No.
Go Wild Times.
You got to spell it like Y old.
WHY-OLD times with a Y.
Yep,
just to F everything up.
That's the way to do it.
Yep. But also over the weekend.
Yeah, the Wild did things this weekend.
Well, one thing first, Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to elaborate.
I suppose I can, since I brought it up. Our friend, not more than a friend, our former GatG compadre, one of the lost goalie, as it were, Charlie Beatty, had a child this weekend. So big congratulations to him. Very happy for him, very proud of him, excited to see how he morphs this poor child's life going forward. This child just grows up with all sorts of Kenny Albert angst and an unnatural love for
in this
Todd
house,
Hamrick.
we worship at the feet of Chris Cuthbert.
But very excited for him as he becomes a father after he babysitted us for basically an entire hockey season. So if he does half as good with this kid as he did with babysitting us, he should be just fine.
Yeah, I'm allowed to put up with. I'm just a.
We
man
were.
child.
I mean, behind the scenes and even on the podcast itself, we were. Kind of some petulant children at times. So I think we gave Charlie a good foundation of parenthood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
No.
we can move on from that before we say anything more damaging.
Yeah. No, since we last podcasted on Tuesday, we thought there was going to be a hell of a lot more news to kind of go over, but it's the draft weekend was just kind of a big disappointment in terms of news from what we kind of expected. But the first kind of real bit of news on Draft Friday was the Thomas Vanek buyout.
Yeah.
And we've discussed this
Every week,
numerous
for the last
times, on the podcast, and I get it. You get a little bit more cap flexibility and blah blah blah, and I don't know. I'll say that Vanek and the Wild weren't the best fit for each other. But I wasn't opposed to them trying the last year, as we also discussed. But I get it. I don't know. I'll let you elaborate.
Well, the funny thing is that he wasn't a good fit for Mike Yo's Minnesota Wild, I think. And that's the ironic part, is that I think he's a much better fit for Bruce Boudreau's Minnesota Wild. And he even said as much. He said almost exactly that verbatim. It was like, I was disappointed because I thought it was a good fit with Boudreau coming in. But as you said, I totally get it in the terms of a financial standpoint. The thing that will irritate me is if they don't make a corresponding move. If they just bought out Vanek so they can re-sign, Chris Porter and Justin Fontaine and Ryan Carter, I understand they have to sign a fourth line, but, with the cap being $73 million as opposed to 71 like we thought, I just didn't think that was completely necessary. And then we're left with a hole in our top nine. Zucker, obviously, I think gets re-signed, so that maybe fills that, but I don't know. It just seems to me, and then if you trade somebody and don't get somebody in return, or you don't make a trade at all, I think you're a little thin in your top nine. You're expecting Jason Zucker to be Jason Zucker of the 14-15 season, basically. And, under Bruce Boudreau, I think that's probably a decent bet to make, but if they don't make any kind of moves, they're going to be left with, anywhere from $4 to $5 million in cap space, even if they do resign everyone they want to resign, which you're saving $5 million on Vanek. So, I totally understand. We did the armchair GM thing. You had to buy out Vanek. I chose not to, and it made things very difficult for me. But it just seems like it's kind of a lack of creativity thing, and they haven't made a move. Yeah. If you're going to make a move, then fine. You can exceed the cap during the offseason, and you still have a week to buy him out. But I don't know. I get why they did it. I just hope that there is something that makes it make sense. You know what I mean? Just doing it for the sake of doing it didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me with that $2.5 million hit next season.
All right. And my big thing is the next season part, when there's a $2.5 million cap hit on the book, and I would say the cap's probably not likely to go up.
No,
much, if at all, next year.
And you don't have anybody big falling off the books next season either. You've still got a year left on Koivu and 2 years left on Bowmanville.
And a lot of notable RFAs.
Yes.
Like Granlund, Niederreiter.
Yeah.
Holla.
Yes.
Holla.
At your boys.
Okay. Jim Matheson of the Edmonton Journal, I believe, threw out a draft night rumor. Or I think he was just throwing crap out there.
Yeah.
But he was just like, would you take Dumba and Holla for R&H? It's just like, no deal. Pass. Pass.
No. That's a deal that I hate making. But
Dan and I hugged each other through text message after that tweet.
I probably make that deal.
How dare you?
But very begrudgingly. And it's easy to say because I think there's a lot of people around the country who would be like, why the F aren't you making that deal yesterday? But just seeing what we've seen out of Holla and Dumba, I just feel like there's so much more there. What we saw out of Holla in the Torchetti era was so good. I can understand why the Oilers would want him. Not that the Oilers necessarily need him, but it just seems weird to me like they want to acquire another freaking forward. And it's like, just take a defenseman and a damn pick. That's all you need, right? What more do you need than that? Or take the defenseman and take Kemper. Not that Talbot's bad or anything, but Kemper is a very viable backup for you. I don't know. It just seems to me like they don't need the forwards that they're asking for.
It would be my luck that Holla gets traded now. Because I have a Holla jersey in my closet.
Yeah, true.
There were rumblings that the Wild and Oilers were having discussions, but the Oilers were having discussions with literally every. There was there's an hour stretch where everyone on hockey Twitter was tweeting about Brad Chiarelli and meeting with Brad Treliving, Calgary's GM, or Kekalainen from Columbus. And,
right. Well, I mean, I believe it was this morning or late last night that I think it was, I don't know if it was McKenzie or Friedman, one of those guys tweeted something along the lines of, Edmonton and Minnesota are still talking and RNH is still kind of the centerpiece. And it's like, well, that's refreshing a little bit that's still on the table.
Right.
But it kind of, we heard some rumors about Coyle being involved in a deal on Friday night, and it's like, good God.
I missed that.
Yeah, well, it was basically like Coyle and Brodin is what it would take to get RNH, and it's like, again, just like Holla, it's like, I don't really like that deal, but, maybe you make that deal?
Edmonton doesn't need another forward.
Well, right, but that's exactly my point. It's like, what the hell do they need Coyle for? They just drafted Puljujarvi, and he's going to play almost immediately.
Columbus just gift wrapped them.
I know.
Puljujarvi. Like, what?
Yeah, and then, they've got Taylor Hall still, unless they deal him. If they needed a guy to replace RNH, then why are they dealing RNH? And if you get a wing, I kind of get it. Or if you get a cheaper option than RNH, which Coyle and Holla very much are, I kind of get that. But it's like, I just don't know why they need it, unless they're planning on dealing Hall as well, which I kind of understand. If you're going to deal Hall, maybe the Islanders or something.
So, fun as we kind of transition into the draft.
Sure.
Just another fun wedding story. It was
PG
Friday
story.
night was the rehearsal dinner.
Of course.
And it's the draft. All these rumors are flying around.
Right.
I'm stapled to my phone like every minute.
Yeah.
I have my phone out and I'm just hitting the refresh on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then you see Columbus pick Dubois, not Puljujarvi, and I literally yelled, "What?" At the rehearsal. People looked up at me like, "What? Oh, whoops." Sorry.
At least it wasn't during the wedding.
Well, my phone was... During the wedding, I turned my phone off for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I didn't want, the Wild to make some kind of trade during the wedding, and then
you're walking down the aisle and your phone just blows up.
No, I have a way better walking down the aisle story. It's not shareable for this.
Good
but anyway. So in the draft finally started, and it was kind of interesting to just track it, I guess.
Sure.
From a rehearsal dinner, but
yeah, my phone died almost. I think with a couple of picks left in the first round, because it was basically my phone was on and Twitter was open from 5:30 until about 9:30. Yeah. So I was tweeting from the Wild Extra account, from my account, and then following the draft and jumping into the podcast and et cetera, et cetera. So. Yeah, busy night. Interesting stuff as the draft tends to be, though.
Yeah. No surprise, Austin Matthews went number one.
Yeah.
How do you like the Leafs jersey?
I think it's good. I liked their old logo a little bit better. I liked the cartoonish Leaf a little bit more than the realistic Leaf. I get why they changed it. That it's actually their classic design, so I'm not going to argue with that. Anytime you go revert to an old design, I think for the most part, I'm going to like it. We really liked their jerseys before this, so I would say that it's the rare instance that they did a complete overhaul and it was a lateral move. I like their jerseys just as much now as I did their jerseys from this season. So they kept it simple. They kept it clean. The crest, even though I prefer the old one, is still a very nice-looking crest, and I like it. So
I like the Leafs. Really can't go wrong with a jersey.
Yes.
Unless they go with a Reebok Edge system,
piping and stuff everywhere. Underarm colors
off just about anything.
Yeah.
And maybe it was a little bit of a lateral move, but I like the crest with the exception of that weird thing on the bottom.
The butt.
Yeah.
Sexy Flanders.
Yep.
As I call it.
Nothing at all.
Stupid sexy Flanders.
Stupid sexy Flanders.
I'm gonna tweet. I gotta find that GIF or that picture every time we play the Maple Leafs this year, because that is the most obvious butt in sports logo history.
Yeah. And then we get down to the 15th pick, and sure enough, our guy Bellows is just sitting there, and I'm just just literally, please do the right thing.
Yeah.
And they took a loop.
Cunning.
How do you say it?
Cunning.
Cunning.
Think cunning without the G.
Okay.
Cunning.
From
It's really easy to
the
call it Coonan, I realize, but
University of Wisconsin.
yeah.
I tweeted when they picked "Oh Come On," which was half why not Bellows and half Wisconsin. Really?
Yeah.
But I'm not, I guess angry with that pick.
Sure.
A center who seems to be pretty promising.
Mm-hmm.
But man,
And he seems to have more offensive upside than Eriksson Ek.
Yeah.
He seems to be a creator with the puck and a shooter. I mean, he they talked about it on the podcast. The great Nate Wells joined the Hockey Wilderness podcast and kind of talked about what he had seen out of Cunnin this year. And, it's not like taking Eriksson Ek, which I'm not crapping on Eriksson Ek because I think he's a fine prospect, but he was definitely more of the Scandinavian, responsible, defensive type center. I mean, let's not say it, but let's say it. He's kind of doomed to be a third-line center for his career. Granlund Light maybe or something like that. But Cunnin doesn't seem to be that kind of prospect. Everyone raves about his maturity and character, and that's always buzzwords that you'll find with a wild draft pick. But it seems like offensively he's a lot more dynamic than a guy they would typically take. He scored a lot on a god-awful college team.
He had 19 goals as a freshman for a garbage Wisconsin
team. And granted, in a garbage league as well. I mean, they... But still, I mean, the only rookies that outscored him were Brock Besser and Kyle Connor, so you can't really...
Don't tell Barry Alvarez the Big Ten is garbage.
I think anyone given the chance would staple that to his forehead, so...
Throw him in jail.
He does deserve to get, deported or something.
War criminal.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I like the pick, and not to gloat too much, but he's the one that I picked last week when we did the mock draft. We did it, and we both talked about Bellows an awful lot. And you took Bellows, and I said, just to kind of be a contrarian, I said, you know what? I'm going to say Cunnin because... it can't work out so perfectly that the Wild get Bellows, because why would they? You know what I mean? I kind of half expected him to go before their pick, just based on, the amount of hype that was around him and how much everybody seemed to like his skill set. But then he's there, and he slides all the way to 19 as well. Yeah. So clearly the Wild weren't the only team that missed out on that kid, and Wild fans can complain all they want. And I get it. We didn't even consider the one of us factor when we liked him so much. No. But still, you had to like his skill set. But obviously, Cunnin, they liked what he created a lot more. They liked, keep in mind, Bellows scored 50 goals, but he had Clayton Keller as his center all season long. Clayton Keller is a hell of a hockey player. He was a guy I absolutely loved, went 7th overall to the Coyotes, who had a phenomenal draft. And, so I think there's a lot of fair questions about how much offense Bellows can create on his own. Is he a great shooter? Absolutely. And I think this team needs it. But... I think that Cunnin probably creates a little bit more space for himself, is probably a little bit more dynamic on his own with the puck offensively, and is maybe, not quite the shooter that Bellows is, but still a good shooter, an above-average shooter in this draft. So I totally understand why they picked Cunnin. I wanted Bellows, but Cunnin was a very, very close second for me, and I'm not upset with the pick at all. And, I don't want to get angry or upset about it, but I don't know that anybody should be. We all liked Bellows, but I don't think Cunnin was a bad pick.
It's just after reading up on him and whatnot, it's a good pick.
Yeah.
I seem to have really hitched my wagon to the Bellows,
and a lot of people did. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Hopefully this is one that'll work out, and the Wild are starting to get some forward depth back in the pipeline,
right?
Which is kind of nice considering it's been god-awful for a few years.
Yeah, if anything, you might want to be more upset over them not drafting Travis Konechny instead of Eriksson Ek last season.
Yeah.
Because Konechny absolutely destroyed the juniors last season, and Eriksson Ek had a good year in Sweden, but, I don't know. That seems like the more egregious pass to me than Bellows over Cunnin.
Sounds like Eriksson Ek will be at training camp this year.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Interesting, but
I don't expect him to stay here, but...
All right. It'll be interesting to see how he looks, and I don't know.
Absolutely.
It would be nice to see him in the preseason, just to kind of see how he can play.
Yeah.
At least with
for sure
somewhat NHL teams, but
AHL rosters at the very worst. Yeah.
I mean, you can obviously check them out at their development camp, but it's hard to take a hell of a lot away from those because.
Yeah, I mean, well, last year we went to development camp, and I mean, Alex Tuck looked like a man amongst boys, and he's not going to look like that in the NHL. But him and Riley and a couple of guys looked like they were just, they were NHLers playing against high schoolers at some points, because they kind of were. I mean, they're guys that are going to be on the border this season against guys who just graduated last year. So, not much can be taken away from that. I still am very much looking forward to prospect camp, but it's going to be nice to see a few more of those guys in preseason too. We'll get to see Tuck in preseason, I assume. We'll get to see Lucia in preseason, Eriksson Ek in preseason. I doubt Greenway is going to be there, obviously. Belpidio I think he's returning, isn't he? Is he returning to Miami?
Might actually be worth it to go to a preseason game this year.
Yeah, indeed.
That was kind of it for Friday night.
Yeah.
I don't know, really the kind of only noteworthy draft trade was Brian Elliott going to Calgary.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, Calgary was kind of the team looking for a goalie, and Elliott, I looked it up before the playoffs. He was the best goalie in the NHL in adjusted save percentage last year, so he had a hell of a season. And, they got him for essentially a second-round pick, and that was it. So that's pretty huge, or second and I think a conditional third. But, I mean, it's only good news for the Wild, because then the Blues are left with Jake Allen and Jake Allen alone. And clearly, probably a good move by the Blues, because they can't protect both those players next season. So,
wasn't Elliott their starting goalie in the playoffs? Was that Allen?
No, it was Elliott. remember, Elliott was flaming hot until basically the Western Conference Finals, where he kind of ran out of gas a little bit. But he literally carried that team through the first two rounds against Chicago and against Dallas. I mean, he really made that team work. So. It's a very interesting move, and Calgary suddenly becomes, the Pacific is always kind of a crapshoot, it seems. Calgary suddenly becomes kind of an interesting team. Now they have a goaltender that's worth a flying F, so.
No, I would not want to play Calgary next year, but they got gift wrap Matthew Tkachuk at number 6.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's better there than him ending up with Vancouver, right?
I'm just revisiting this again. What is Columbus doing?
Dubois was a guy who climbed up the draft boards, and everyone was pretty... he scored 99 points in the queue. That's nothing to sneeze at, and I definitely thought he was going to go 4th or 5th, and there wasn't really any in between. I thought if he went 4th, it kind of made sense over Tkachuk a little bit, and if he didn't, he was going to go 5th, and there was no other way about it. And then he goes 3rd. So... surprising, yes, but I don't know. It just one of those things that now we're going to get the infinite Gretzky and Curry comparisons to McDavid and Puljujarvi. So you get to look forward to that all season long. But that's the way it goes. It's fate.
Don't make those comparisons.
Hot takes.
So then on to. Saturday, where the Wild had a whopping 3 picks,
one in the first
in the 7th round,
first 4 rounds of the day. 5 rounds of the day.
So then they take
They took Josh Duhaime. Josh,
I think so.
Josh, I don't know.
I had it all queued up.
Duhaime. He's a Providence. Brandon Duhaime, sorry. He's a Providence recruit, and obviously we know Providence is doing great things in hockey right now, so very interesting. From Florida, no less. Playing in the USHL right now. Played with Tri-City, who won the, I believe it's the Clark Cup. last season. So pretty good pedigree. A kid that seems to be pretty good at it. We don't know much about him. He's a wing, and I don't know exactly what kind of style he plays. I'm going to look into it a little bit more as I write up the draft today. But seems like a pretty good pick. He was rated high. It didn't seem like it was a horrendous reach. I mean, granted, is a fourth rounder, so it's not really like it's not that big of a deal. If he was a reach, I don't think you know what is a reach and what isn't in the fourth round. So, decent pick. And then with the thing that everyone's excited about is Sokurov in the seventh round, the Russian that was a projected first round pick going into last season. Had conditioning issues, allegedly. I don't know even what that means. If he just...
Don't we all?
Yeah. So already I like this guy because I can relate. But scored 30 goals. How do you go from a projected first-round pick to the seventh round if you score 30 goals? Like,
I wish.
I don't care if you're out of gas after 7 minutes. You still scored 30 goals in a season, for Christ's sake. I don't know how he slipped that far. And that's kind of the gist that even Corey Pronman tweeted about it. I mean, he's a big deal. He was a guest on the Hockey Wilderness podcast last week and kind of an NHL prospects expert. And even he was like, this is a great pick. I don't know how he felt this far. So him and Kirill Kaprizov are kind of the Wild's brief foray into drafting Russians. It looks like great picks so far.
We're 2/5 of the way to having our own
Russian five. I think Kaprizov is a wing too, right? That's what both. I think they're both wings.
It's happening.
Yeah, so we need a defenseman and another defenseman and a center. Okay.
Hey, let's trade for the Pavel Datsyuk contract. Speaking of the Coyotes.
Yeah, well, we got the capper now. We bought up Vanek.
We'll save this for another day, but I really hate those.
This can go along with our NHL complaint podcast.
We'll file that under the What's Wrong with the NHL podcast.
I can make my references to all the airplane graveyards in Arizona and how the Coyotes are now in airplane graveyard in Arizona.
Another weird wedding fact. We, as you mentioned, graveyard.
Yes.
We had this.
You went to a
wedding in a backyard.
Sure.
Right next to a cemetery.
What?
Yeah.
Whose backyard was this? A family member, I assume?
No, I think Some
guy?
I just want to say they just rented out the space.
Oh.
Just
like it was somebody's house,
yeah.
or
I don't know. I didn't ask how they came about it. 'Cause I tried not to pry into too many wedding things because I didn't want to.
You already dealt with pushing a Winnebago. You were out of questions.
Yeah. So, but no, it was a great place that came with its own lovable, drunken old Brit.
Oh, nice.
It was great.
Nice.
But anyway,
I didn't even know that guy. I like him.
We were going out. We were on Solikov.
Right.
I don't know how we got to that, but
whatever.
Anyway.
Drinking, Russians, done.
Yeah, no, that's... I like that pick. Hopefully they can get his conditioning right.
Yeah.
Because that would be a really good pick. And, like, how do you... I guess, I don't know how... Just a little conditioning problem drops you to the 7th round. But
it just blows my mind. I don't know if it was... Because he played in North America, so I don't know.
Right, because he wants to play in the NHL.
Right.
If you... With some Russians, there's always a concern of, are they going to play in the NHL? Well, he has stated he wants to play in the
even
NHL.
said he wants to play in the NHL, so that's huge too. But it's just weird. It's weird that he drops to the 7th, and I don't know if you saw the quotes from him, but they asked me, like, what do you like to do? I like to score goals. All right, well, sign this kid up. Let's get him on the workout bike for a little while.
We need someone with that mentality.
Right,
I like to score goals.
Well, I think that's what this organization is missing, and maybe that's why they don't like Russians so much, because Russians they're so flashy. You know, they just want to snipe. They're not known for their forechecking. No. They're not known for their very responsible defensive play, but they just score goals. That's all they want to do. They're finesse. Yeah, and we could use a little bit of that.
Let's just say the Russian system is more about offense.
Yes.
Not forwards playing a 200-foot game.
Yeah. That's how you get crazy goalies like Brizgalov. Yes. When you face about 50 shots a game coming up through.
He's trying to come back.
Yeah. I think we talked about him last week.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
I don't remember.
How we didn't really want him that much.
And then to close out the draft, the Wild took defenseman
Braden Chizen, yeah. And he's just a mountain of a human being, I guess, a defender. So, I mean, it's kind of a flyer. When you're taking a guy with size, obviously I don't think his skills are up to snuff right now, but you've got a while, you know. He's probably a guy that you sit on and let him play juniors for a good 2-3 seasons at the very least until you even consider bringing him into professional hockey. So, you know, maybe seems like the throwaway pick to some, but it's a gamble. I think with 7th rounders, that's what you have to do. I mean, you can go out and sign, you know, a hustle kid that is a senior in college. You can go out and sign those. That's not hard to find. But, you know, size is something in the NHL still. It's not nearly as important as it used to be. And I'm not saying that you should sign players based on size. I loved Clayton Keller and Jake Bean in this draft, and they slid because of size, which I thought was ridiculous. But when you come across a defenseman that big, you, especially at 17, 18 years old, you just kind of hope that he grows into his body a little bit, he develops some skills, and, you know, then you have a quality defender that's got plus size on, you know, in your franchise. And for a 7th round pick, I mean, just take that gamble. It's not really that big of a deal. That was a throw-in from the Bergenheim trade, for crying sake.
Yeah, and, you know, again, just kind of a...
So we got something
disclaimer.
For Bergenheim is what I'm saying.
You know, all these draft picks are minimum 2-3 years away from being seen.
I mean, I think even Cunnin, as good as he is, I would be shocked to see him anywhere close to this team next fall.
No.
I think he plays one more year at Wisconsin. I think he probably sticks around Wisconsin for another 2 years. And as dynamic and as good as he is, I think it would be a surprise for me if he left after this season. The season after, I think, is probably a good landing spot. But if he only spends one more season there under Tony Granato, that would be surprising.
I forgot they fired Eves.
Yes, they have Tony Granato. Dom Granato, which I guess was his U18 coach. That's what the great Nate Wells was saying on the podcast. So we'll see how that whole situation works out.
Yeah, that kind of wrapped it up for the draft.
Other than that, we're just kind of sitting around and waiting for a trade, eh?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what... kind of looking ahead to this week now, you know, if they can pull the trigger on a trade, because as you kind of alluded to before, you know, you don't really buy out Vanek unless, you know, you're got something potentially in the wings.
Right.
With free agency starting Friday, I would really hate to see them just buy out Vanek just so they can overpay Kyle Caposo or David Backus. This year, unless you're getting Stamkos, just stay away from the big names.
Yeah.
Which somebody tweeted at Russo. Heard the Wild have money to go in on Stamkos.
Oh my God! No,
yeah. Going in on Stamkos would mean there's all your cap space.
Yeah.
No,
it means Curtis
happening.
Gabriel is starting this for this team like 82 games this season. Basically, is what that means. Because you're going to have to. I mean, you're going to have to sign Ryan Carter to a $600,000 contract, and then Dalby or Grayovac to $600,000, and that's it. And that is literally it. Would it be great? Obviously, we'd love to have Stamkos, but just don't go there. It's not happening. Don't think for a second it's happening. He's going to go to Toronto or he's going to stay in Tampa. I think maybe the only dark horse is Detroit, I guess, and that's it. That's literally it. I don't see him going anywhere besides those 3 teams.
Before I kind of cut off from Twitter yesterday, I saw that apparently the Rangers have also spoken to Stamkos.
And Buffalo too, I guess, but it's like, I don't know that I buy that either.
Buffalo can toss a lot of money at
They can, sure. And obviously that's a team on the rise, but I don't know. I just, who knows? I mean, but it looks like he's definitely staying in that area. I mean, Detroit, Buffalo, Toronto, it's all very close to home for him. Anywhere else is just a pipe dream, and obviously the Wild, yes, they technically have the room, but they really don't. I mean, if they sign him, they can't sign almost anyone else. So let's just nip that in the bud, and let's get over the fact that we're not going to sign Steven Stamkos.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because there's never really been a player of Stamkos' caliber to hit the free agent market, and
not in our life. I mean, Mark Messier, back in the day. I'm trying to think. I mean, Yager, I guess, hit the free agent market a couple of times. But yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long time. Not recently, at least that I can think of, as a player like that hit the free agent market. I mean, Parise and Suter, as much as we love them, they're not that caliber of player. So I don't know. But so free agency starts on Friday. Let's assume they don't make a trade because it's Minnesota sports. Who would you mind the least of them signing? Because they have cap room, and like we said, if they have it, they should use it. Otherwise, why did you buy out Vanek? But what would you hate the least of like a semi-prominent free agent for them to sign?
I mean, I think Russo's kind of threw it out there, like David Perron.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with him, maybe on a good price.
Sure.
I'm just gonna go off the list of players I don't want them to sign, which is Backus, Kaposo, Louis Eriksson,
Milan Lucic.
Lucic. I feel like there's one more. It's such a. I don't know. I'm also just worried because, shoot, I was going to have the list. I made a list of Chuck Fletcher's free agent signings as Wild GM.
It's not
and
good.
it is awful.
Yeah.
It is awful.
Yeah.
I wish I had it with me.
Well, Vanek's the most prominent one, right?
I'll read it off next week.
Sure.
But yeah.
When everyone's upset that they didn't sign a free agent, be like, here's why. This is why we don't do this.
You just go down the list, and first he just had a trend of signing these fourth line grinders to 2 or 3 year deals.
But then Parise and Suter, obviously.
And then that kind of stopped when Parise and Suter came in.
No more Brodziak deals.
But, yeah, it just... And I wasn't counting, extensions or anything
Sure,
like
yeah.
that.
No, you're signing guys who weren't with the team.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yuck. What a list.
And I'm with you on especially on Backus and Oposo, because I think everyone won't shut up about those two guys. They need to sign him. Why? Why do they need to sign those guys? We already have a Backus. His name is Mikko Koivu. Right. We already have an Oposo. We just bought him out. His name is Thomas Vanek. He's literally the same freaking player, only 4 years older. For the term and the money that it's going to take to sign those guys in the free agent market, it's not going to be worth it. And if some miracle happens, some by God miracle happens, and we can sign one of those guys for, let's say, under $4 million a year, I don't feel nearly as bad about it.
No.
But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Those guys are too good on the open market to make that little amount of money.
Kyle Kaposo's
and they're not going to take a hometown discount.
Because he's been playing on John
Tavares' wing. Yeah.
And
Agreed.
David Backus has
had a hell of a playoffs.
His last big contract as a professional.
Yep. And he had the playoff resume to back it up this season.
I wouldn't mind having David Backus, just not at what he wants.
No. It makes no sense. Extremely team friendly or no.
I think there are some players out there you could maybe find on a bargain 1 year deal or something to maybe see if they can turn it around. And
like Thomas Vanek.
I'd be interested to see who signs him.
And for how much, yeah.
Because that'd be really interesting to see.
I bet he gets a 1 year deal for $2 million somewhere.
Somebody just to kind
or
of
$3 million maybe tops.
Because I was interested in his play this year and the last year of that deal too, just to see if he can have one big year to cash in on his next contract.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a contract year. He didn't have a tremendous contract year in his final season, but he was also with 3 different hockey teams. So, I mean, not to give him any excuses, but I think he produced all right, all things considered.
And players will tell you they're not thinking about their next contract in a contract year, but you are.
They are.
It's a factor.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully the Wild, don't massively overpay somebody, and
Well, I'd rather see him make a trade and eat up the cap space that way because,
Right.
the difference between R&H and one of our defenders is going to be roughly $2 million. And so that is where a good chunk of the Vanek money would go. And I'm okay with that. If you buy out Vanek, and like we said a zillion times, and you trade for a guy and that, the guy is more money than the player you're sending, fine. It makes total sense. You're upgrading from Vanek. Totally fine. Makes sense to me. But if you're not going to, then, well, what's the point? It just seems weird to me that you're going to, handcuff yourself with $2.5 million next season just so you can sign, all of your fourth line guys at comfortable prices this season.
And as we discussed, I would much rather them try and, add some new blood to the fourth line.
Yeah,
But
true.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think we covered all the draft and free agency and,
Yeah.
and junk,
I
and
think we're good.
we can hit back to the jersey discussion.
Oh, nice. I'll hit the drop.
Here to start the third period. What team is this? It's not Team USA. Well, yes, it is. They've got on new uniforms. They're wearing the logo of the Duck. I've never seen this before.
The logo of the Duck.
I think I'm going to go home and watch the Mighty Ducks trilogy. I don't want to do it. I'm supposed to go, there's like a food truck festival
Oh.
going on somewhere today, and
Oh, Uptown, I believe, right?
yeah, and
I had some
I was
friends
gonna-
up there that talked about it.
I was going to go because my friend from Washington's in town, and
Nah.
I offered a disclaimer with going, like, if I'm, like, not up to it, you'll understand.
Right.
And I watching the Mighty Ducks trilogy just sounds way better now.
So we'll talk about. Let's do the Rockies and the Scouts, since that's pretty simple. It's only two jerseys, and we didn't prepare much for this. Surprise, surprise. Obviously, one franchise. If you don't know the backstory, they started as the Colorado Rockies. I believe it was 79, something like that.
76.
76, okay. And then they moved to Kansas City for a very brief minute. And then they became the New Jersey Devils. So we already talked about the Devils, obviously, but the defunct teams that we're talking about will be the Colorado Rockies, whose jerseys are very familiar. If you saw the Stadium Series jerseys for
sorry.
Colorado this year.
The Scouts started in 74.
Oh, the
Rockies
Scouts?
started in 76.
Okay, so there was Kansas City, then Colorado,
Yeah.
then to New Jersey. Okay, I had it mixed.
I didn't know Kansas City moved to Colorado.
I thought they went east. I thought it started Colorado and went east, but
I don't
whatever.
know.
No, obviously it started in Kansas City and then bounced from Colorado to New Jersey. But yeah, so kind of interesting jerseys because I would say they're very 70s like. There's a fair amount of color going on there.
There's a lot of color.
And the Scouts jersey had this weird scout, I guess, this dude wearing like full-on Lewis and Clark regalia as part of their crest, which I guess was kind of cool. The Scouts logo looks kind of almost Winnipeg Jets-ish, but a little too complex, you know what I mean?
Looks like somebody just hand drew this.
Yeah, it's kind of what it looks. Yeah,
The
and they
red-
were what, red, or they were blue, red, and yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The red breezers are really quite something.
Yeah, that's not a good look. Unless your team wears red, not blue.
And then they moved to Colorado, and they kind of dumped all the unnecessary red shoulders.
Right. And that logo was super simple, and it was kind of pulled right from the flag, and kind of the same thing that the Avs use for their third jersey now. It's very, very similar, obviously on purpose, of the C for the Colorado flag, and then a mountain, a very simple mountain behind it.
How come New Jersey Devils fan didn't raise a stink when Colorado
Stole their jerseys back,
put that on their?
No, that was
their
just Stars
jerseys?
fans.
Or is
Like,
that just
they're using Stars
or
players
just
for their alumni
Stars fans
game.
being the only overreactionary?
They are,
fan base?
and so they were freaking out like, oh, that's all of our players. It's like, okay, one of those guys played in Dallas, Mike Modano. That's it. All of those other players never stepped foot in your goddamn state. So don't even give me that crap.
I'm sorry, I will never not take a shot at them.
Well, they used our players for their alumni game. No, we didn't use your players. We used the players that played in our state for our team. If you want Mike Bonanno, have him. Who cares?
Sorry, I didn't know Dino Cicero. It was your property.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm going to try to tell me that, Neil Broughton spent, a season or two there, and that was it, and yeah, again, Dino Cicerelli, it's not...
He didn't want to be there. He wanted to be here.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can find me one Dallas Stars fan who knows who Gilles Meloche is, I will give them $100 out of my wallet, if I had $100 in my wallet. So, John Casey, never heard of him. Yeah, shut up. End rant.
I do like the Rockies, their last jersey they used.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's a good.
It's a little color heavy, but
look,
again,
yeah.
It was the 70s, so they could have toned it down a touch. But I think for what it was, I think it wasn't too bad. I think it looks it looks like it matched pretty well with what the Nuggets were doing around the time. So that kind of makes sense. And even the Broncos, they're blue and orange, but a similar kind of style and color scheme.
They were all kind of close to color schemes.
Right. They almost pulled off the full Pittsburgh, as we talked about last week. That's all you got?
That's probably it. I guess my only other
not much to talk about.
Colorado Rockies thought is when Michael Kadire signed with the baseball team, the Rockies, my friend kept trying to get me to buy the hockey team Rockies jersey and put Kadire on the back.
That's not bad. That's a solid.
That would have been an interesting thing to have, but
interesting waste of money. But yeah, it would have been a kind of a neat thing.
That'd have been an expensive joke.
Like 3% of the population would get a good chuckle out of it. And that's about it.
Nobody. Yeah, it'd be like 5 people who'd get that.
Right, which is fine. Those are the best jokes. Like soup jokes.
Hey, a Colorado team whose jerseys I actually like.
What?
Burn.
Who knew?
Yeah, I suppose I can probably wrap it up here. Any final thoughts?
Oh, good question. Well, we talked about it last week, and the salary cap was announced and whatnot. We expected something to happen, and it never did. Now we're kind of hitting the 0 hour. It's really got to happen, I think, before free agency.
Yeah.
And I think NHL, we talked about it should probably happen before the draft. Well, that's, yes, it would have been easier to do before the draft because then you can fill in a lot of blanks. You can fill in some value here and there with draft picks. Not the Wild had any, but now it's still very possible to make a deal. And hopefully, I hope something gets done because I'd rather see them make a trade than sign somebody significant. And I think they have to do one of those two things. They talked a little bit this weekend about the team not really needing any changes, and we're really happy with our team, and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I don't discredit that. I think this team will automatically be better simply because of Bruce Boudreau. That's what you get when you sign a coach of that caliber. But at the same time, Fletcher did talk last week about dealing from his strength, acquiring a center, keeping Granlund on the wing, et cetera, et cetera. And I just feel like you said that, and we're not stupid. You should probably stick with it. And from there, it's we just waiting for a move to happen. It just seems like you're just waiting, and something's got to happen by Friday. And then if it doesn't, then you're looking at hoping and praying that you can sign Yuri Hoodler or David Perron or somebody to a relatively team-friendly deal. I just don't know if that's. I think your odds of getting something good for the team are a lot lower in free agency than they would be in a trade with the Oilers, who are so defensive starved, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Not really. I guess I have 2 final thoughts.
Sure.
Neither Wild related, but my first is every year we get to this time of year when rumors just become so
rampant.
Yeah. And every year, like clockwork, we get the Evgeny Malkin needs to be traded. Evgeny Malkin rumored to be going to blah, blah, blah. The worst of which came last week when somebody tweeted. Somebody literally put this out onto the internet. The Blackhawks are seriously kicking the tires on Evgeny Malkin.
Ugh.
What? Folks, he's not going anywhere.
No.
The Pens aren't trading him. If it was going to happen, it would have happened by now at some point.
Right.
If they were going to trade him, it would have happened when they were having their down years.
Right.
Before this last season,
Mm-hmm.
It just people get way too excited with Evgeny Malkin rumors. It's just not happening ever. And no, the Wild are not trading for Evgeny Malkin.
It's about as likely as Stamkos.
And my other final thought is, while technically Jim Benning was outside the lines by commenting on Subban and Stamkos.
Yeah.
It was kind of, just refreshing to hear a GM just be brutally honest.
Yeah.
When talking to the media and not just trying to blow smoke. But, yeah, he's getting fined for talking about players that aren't on his team, and that is tampering. But it just
technically.
It was just a little bit, refreshing to just hear him give a straight answer.
Yeah.
Something you don't see a whole lot. But, okay, third final thought. The Canadians aren't trading PK Subban.
Oh, my God, yes. Shut up.
It was getting really bad on Friday. Like, I had to text my friend, like, these Subban rumors are really picking up steam, and nothing is going to happen.
Well, they were picking up steam on Twitter, and then their GM says, well, yeah, people call me about him, but...
People usually just laugh at it, and it goes away, but it just wasn't going away. Nobody was laughing either.
Yeah, it's just weird.
It was weird. What a weird weekend.
Mm-hmm. It's the draft, though.
Yeah.
That's the draft.
Yeah. Next year, live podcast from the draft.
Yeah. We're just going to, sit in the upper deck in Chicago and just sit there and just BS.
We'll just, either that or we'll have to, go into the concourse at the United Center so we can plug in our audio equipment.
It's true. We'll just be huddled around one random outlet.
Hey, maybe they'll let us into the media room.
Yeah. Given that it's an NHL run event, we might have a chance. Seeing as how the Wild aren't in charge of the credentials.
Ouch. We better end it there.
Yeah.
You can find all of Ben's draft writings at wildextra.com. You can find us talking about jerseys or soup on Twitter at Ben Remington, at Giles Farrell, not Drof Farrell, as was on my hotel bill this morning. I don't know how we got there.
Girof.
Yeah, Groef.
Like Jeff with an R thrown in there?
I don't know how we got to that, but
I kind of like it as a nickname.
That was a weird swing. So, yeah, thank you for listening. This podcast where I shared half wedding stories, half hockey takes.
I think we did all right with that.
We'll be back again next week. We'll be talking about free agency.
Hopefully
the lack thereof activity from.
Talk about this sweet trade that the Wild just made.
Yeah, hopefully. We can only hope.
Mm-hmm.
And then, probably after that, we'll only have, one or two more shows before we...
pretty much.
We go on summer break.
Yeah.
So, it'll be fun to watch.
We'll probably do it.
All right. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
St. Paul, Minnesota. Minneapolis, Minnesota.
We are ducks, and ducks fly together.
it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger. More than power, never.